Hey scrappy people, it's Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with a tutorial on how to very quickly, very easily print my printable products that are available at tracyreed.com. I've had a few questions lately, and this is going to be a two-part video. First is going to be printing, and then the next one is going to be printing and cutting on your silhouette. So when you download my digital files, assuming that you have a Mac, but also I'm pretty sure on a PC too, you'll have a downloads folder, and in your downloads folder you will get zip files, and Mac zip files automatically extract. I'm not sure about PC zip files, but generally if you double click on the zip file, then it will extract and you will be left with a bunch of file folders that look like this. So this is my Comfy Cozy collection, and in the collection you have 3x8, you have journaling cards, you have traveler's notebook signatures, you have all kinds of different size options that you can print. Now, if you are not tech savvy, you don't have Photoshop, you don't know anything about digital scrapbooking, you can still very easily use these files. If you want to print them at home, all you have to do is go into the file, and you can see that I provide, let me zoom in a little, you can see that I provide both individual files and a printable PDF file down here at the bottom. If you double click or right click and open with, you can open this with whatever image viewer you have built into your computer. For a Mac, that is Preview. So I'm going to open it with Preview, and you can see that it has multiple sheets to accommodate all of the cards, and they are lined up, so all you have to do is make one cut between them to make it easy on you so that you don't have to cut a million times. So we have all of these, and it's very, very simple. All you do from here is print, so Command P or File Print. And what you want to make sure that you have for not all of the files, but anything that goes directly to the edge. Now these do not. These you don't have to worry about, but the traveler's notebook papers go all the way to the edge. So you'll want to make sure that you have a printer that can print all the way to the edge. If not, that is fine too. It will cut off about 1/4 of an inch and be just a tiny bit shorter on the height of the traveler's notebook papers. But for the cards, the 3x8 cards and the regular cards, they don't go all the way to the edge, so you don't have to worry about it. But if they do, you want to make sure you go to US letter borderless or whatever the equivalent is on your computer. And then my favorite paper to print these on is Epson Premium Presentation Paper Matte. It gives you the best color truity. It gives you by far the best prints, and it really, really is this easy, folks. You just want to make sure that you go to Media and Quality, or actually, yeah, Media and Quality, and you go to iPhoto Matte Paper, and whatever tray, it'll be the main tray because you're printing on 8.5 by 11, and you want to make sure the quality is up to best. Now these are the standards for the Epson printer I have. Canon is the same, but it's just a little different looking, but you just want to make sure you choose matte photo paper, best quality, and then easy peasy, all you have to do is hit print. You don't have to open it up in Photoshop. You don't have to know anything about computers. It's basically just file, print. Now, let's say that you do want to open it up in Photoshop and create your own files for printing. Perhaps you don't want to print every card. Maybe just you want to print 3 or 4 cards instead. So let's go into the journaling cards, and we will create our own cut files. So what you want to do is come in here and open up Photoshop. And you're going to want to create a new file. Well, let this open. There we go. So you'll want to go up to File, New, and then you'll want to create an 8.5 by 11 file. So I switched it to inches, 8.5, 11, and then you'll want to make sure it is 300 under the resolution. Now the rest of this doesn't matter. You can do transparent. You don't want to do black, so I guess it's transparent or white. It doesn't matter. Whatever you have in the background here, if it's transparent, it will print white because it'll print nothing. If it's white, it'll print white, but if you have like some funky color like fuchsia in the background here, it will print the fuchsia. So you'll want white or transparent. So now we have our canvas ready. And so you can fit up to 6 3x4s or 2 3x4s and 2 4x6s, any of that sort of orientation. So let's say I want to print that one, this one, and let's do these. Let's do these 5 journaling cards. What you're going to want to do is click and drag them into Photoshop. I like to drag them directly onto my canvas, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to just drag them and open them. So then you'll want to copy and paste each card onto your 8.5 by 11 canvas. So you can go to Select All, Edit, Copy, then go over to your 8.5 by 11 by going to the window frame or the window menu and then hitting Untitled 1 and then paste. You can do that with Command or Control V like I just did, or you can go to Edit, Paste. So now I got 2 on there, but I only need the 1. So then you want to repeat that process with all the cards. So let's close this one since we have it pasted. You can also hit Control A or Command A, Command or Control C, and then go over to your 8.5 by 11, paste, and then just repeat the process for each card. Control or Command A, C, Command W will close the card so you don't have to keep coming back to it, and then Command V. Control A, Control C, Control W, Control V. Or alternatively, Select All, Edit, Copy, File, Close, Edit, Paste. I don't like going to the menus. Eventually you will know all of the keyboard shortcuts, so you won't need to go to the menus too, but that was 2 ways to do it. So the best way to fit these on here so that you don't have to make too many cuts is we're going to turn this 4x6 vertical, and I'm going to turn on the grid so that I can line these up really well. So I'm going to move this down here. It's going to have to go right here. And then I'm going to rotate all of these 3x4s as well. 90 degrees. Another way to do that is to hit Command T or Image, or what is it? Edit Transform. Here we go, Free Transform. And then come up here to the toolbar and hit 90 or -90, depending on which way you want it to turn. Hit Enter to accept your changes, and then align these with the 4x6. So I'm going to put one at the top here. And so this 4x6 is hard to see because it is white. So I'm going to turn off the background layer so I can see better. I normally work on transparent files. It's easier for me to see things, especially when you have white cards. And then move this one down. Now, you want to make sure that these are all centered on the canvas. So I am using my cursor and clicking and dragging, starting when away from any of the layers, so starting in a blank canvas area, and that will select all the layers that I draw this marquee around. Now I can move this over so that it's nice and centered on the canvas. So now I'm ready to print. Now, if you were to have a bunch of white cards, you won't really need to do this for a setup like this because these cards will give you the line for the outside edge of this card specifically. But if you were to have a bunch of white cards and you didn't know where to cut your cards, you can add a small stroke to any white card by double clicking on it over here in the layers palette, and going to the FX down on the bottom and going to stroke. Then you'll want it to be on the outside and a really light color just so that you can see it but it won't interfere with the actual card. Now we're putting it on the outside of the card rather than the inside so it doesn't overlap your 4x6 card. And then you'll want to make sure as well to make it a really small pixel size. I generally just do 1. Let's zoom in and look at it so you can see what that did. You can see it just has a small stroke. If I were to turn on the white background again, you can see this small stroke. And that just creates a guideline for you to cut your card. You'll want to make sure that if you're doing the same with cards that don't need that stroke, that you send it to the very bottom layer. Let me close these styles. You send it to the very bottom layer so that your stroke doesn't overlap any of the other cards either. Okay, so from there, you just print like before. So I'm going to hit Command P. You can go to File, Print, and then Print Settings, and just like before, you can set up your prints. Photo matte paper on Epson Premium Presentation Paper is what I recommend. So now that you either have your files set up the way that you wanted to, or you are using the pre-made PDF files that I provide to you, you can also alternatively not print them at home and instead have them printed somewhere like Office Depot. And the easiest way to do that for me is to upload online. I don't like going into Office Depot and handing them my files. I find it to be unnecessary, just an extra waste of time. So what you can do is you can go to OfficeDepot.com. This service is also available on Staples. I don't use Staples, I use Office Depot, so that's how I'm going to show you, but the process is about the same. So you want to go to Services, Print and Copy, and then Copies. And then all you have to do is upload your files directly to Office Depot. So I'm going to upload a file that I've already made, like the PDF files that are provided. You can do the same thing with any sort of JPEG that you create or PDF file that you create if you don't want to have everything printed. But really, this is such an easy and inexpensive way to have these printed. Picking and choosing the files that you want to have printed as far as like specific individual cards or traveler's notebook papers or whatever really it's just not worth the time, in my opinion, to save like $1. So I would just upload directly all of the files that I've provided and that you purchased because it's easier. So anyway, let's go to upload your files. You go to My Device, and then you find your files in the Finder, double click. It lets you upload up to 100 megabytes at once, so you can add more than one file. All of my files are under 100 megabytes, so you might have to upload in batches if you're uploading some of the larger files. I think like the patterned cards are pretty large files, but you can always do that as well. So let me upload one more. What this will do is it will combine all of your files into one job. So once you hit upload, it uploads them to the server, and then you can choose your paper and how you want them printed. You don't need to have them collated. You don't need to have them cut. You can cut them yourself. And honestly, I wouldn't leave it to an Office Depot worker to cut your files because they honestly don't probably know what they're looking at and won't know where to cut anyway. Okay, so now that that's done, you can name it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. And it will show you a preview of your file. So there is what it looks like. And I will have it printed on cardstock for these sort of papers. So any sort of cards I like to have printed on cardstock, 65, 110. It just really depends on how thick you want it. The price difference isn't really that huge. All of these printed on 110 is $4.88. Printed on 65, it's $4.56. So really, it doesn't actually, like, it's a few cents. So it just depends on what you want and how thick you want them. I generally print them on 110-pound cardstock, full color, single-sided. Keep size so that they don't resize everything. Just a note, if you do have your Traveler's Notebook papers printed at Office Depot, they go all the way to the edge, and Office Depot is not capable of printing all the way to the edge, so they will resize your Traveler's Notebook papers a little bit unless you set up files to have them not go all the way to the edge, so you would have to print them differently and set up your own file. I've decided that for my own personal scrapbooking, it's not that big of a deal. It's up to you whether or not it's a big deal for you. So you just hit add to cart when you're done. Then you can also start another document. And what I want to show you is an alternative way to print your Traveler's Notebook papers. So it depends on what you're going to use them for. I have printed my Traveler's Notebook papers on both cardstock and on this paper, and I prefer this paper if it'll ever load. If you watch my Comfy Cozy Are We unboxing, you'll see the paper that I used for the Traveler's Notebook is more like magazine paper. You can still write on it, but hello, there we go. You can still write on it, but it's shiny and thinner, more like an actual Traveler's Notebook. So you can just upload your files. Again, same process. I'm going to open up the Traveler's Notebook papers. So actually, let's open up the signatures. So I'm going to upload this file. But you can come down here to standard whites. Okay, let me make sure. Yeah, you don't want the gloss. I made that mistake. You want to go to the standard whites, not cardstock, 28-pound. And this is a really great paper for printing Traveler's Notebook papers that you're going to use as their own Traveler's Notebook, or even that you're going to use by gluing them into a Traveler's Notebook, because it has a great texture to it, but it isn't that thick. So you can see that the standard whites 28-pound is $3.24 to print this entire file. It's a really great paper. I'm going to link the Comfy Cozy unboxing in the description box below so that you can check out what the cardstock versus the standard whites paper prints like. But if you enjoyed this video, if this helped you figure out how to get your printable files printed quickly and easily, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I will be monitoring them and answering any questions that you might have. If you don't follow me over on Instagram, I'd love it if you followed me over there. I'm at Traci M. Reed, and I will see you next time. All right, thank you.